headliners, the newsmakers, the political scene, and government issues. These should be our concern. And we're taking you at the forefront. Good morning. I am Attorney Karen Jimeno. Join me at the forefront as we discuss the details of national issues and get to know notable personalities.
This week, Vice President Sara Duterte had heated verbal exchanges with at least a dozen members of the Congress Appropriations Committee for the 2025 budget of the Office of the Vice President. The list of representatives VP Sara clashed with were Jude Asidre of Tingog Partylist, Joel Chua of Manila 3rd District, Lianda Bolilla of Batangas 4th District, Rog Gutierrez of One Rider Partylist, Jervil Luistro of Batangas 2nd District, Micaela Swansing of Nueva Ecija, 1st District, Arlene Brosas of Gabriela Partylist, Bienvenido Abante of Manila 6th District, Dan Fernandez of Santa Rosa, Laguna, Raul Manuel of Kabataan Partylist, Stella Kimbo of Marikina 2nd District. One of the most articulated arguments was between VP Sara and ACT Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro. It was the first time that the two faced each other after taking shots at one another on mainstream and social media. Why did Representative Castro square off with the Vice President?
Live at the studio at the forefront is ACT Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro. Good morning, Congresswoman Franz.
Good morning.
So you had heated verbal exchanges with Vice President Sara, and let's watch the clips that we have. Some of those captured those moments when you had those verbal exchanges.
Chair, siguro first observation, no, yung on the budget for the 2024, yung Vice President na nagsabi, Madam Chair, na slow and low utilization. So nakita naman natin doon sa presentation. So yung utilization ay napakababa. Pero syempre comment ko lang, no, mas mabilis siya sa confidential funds. 100% in 11 days. Madam Chair, Madam Chair, so according to the utilization of the confidential and intelligence funds submitted by the COA to us, no, so we have here surveillance and monitoring. Sabihin ko lang, Madam Chair, no, yung purchase of information out of 125 million confidential funds in 2022.
So we only have that one clip. But Congresswoman Franz, there seems to have been a history of some tensions or conflict between you and Vice President Sara, both on mainstream and social media. When you prepared for this budget hearing, did you have any additional preparations, or did you prepare differently, considering you were going to face Vice President Sara?
Well, if you will remember, this was the continuation of the last year's deliberation of budget. Remember that the Makabayan questioned the 125 million confidential funds in 2022. And we said in our presentation that it has no authorization at all from the Congress to have that budget, yung 125 million. And recently, when we had this, we asked the COA to audit the fund, and it took a year for the COA to audit it. Maybe it depends on the submission of the documents by the agency. And then during the committee hearing on the budget of the COA, so I asked, or I move, no? I move a motion for subpoena duces tecum for the COA to present, no? Subpoena kasi to present the document to us in the House of Representatives. So that's the preparation. And when the speaker got it and the Committee on Appropriations chair got it, so we requested for a copy.
So Congresswoman, you went in there really with the aim of questioning the confidential funds. And that's something that you prepared for, like the findings of COA and the confidential funds. What is it about the confidential funds that you wanted to question or that was an issue for you?
Yes, para sa akin, no, kasi 5 minutes lang eh. 5 minutes lang yung question and answer that was given to each congressman. So, ang preparation ko talaga for that confidential funds talaga, yung question on confidential funds. So, yun lang yung preparation ko.
Were you able to ask the questions that you wanted to raise, like during the budget hearing?
Yes, na-ask ko yung questions, but walang answer, no? Nakita naman natin, no, pare-parehas yung answer niya as regards to the COA audit, no? Sabi niya, submitted na raw yung mga papers and makikipag-cooperate na lang siya sa COA. And nakita naman natin at the start of her presentation, sinabi niya talaga na parang hindi na siya sasagot sa mga question and answer related to the budget.
What is it about the confidential funds that you found questionable or irregular?
Well, of course, nung last year, questionable na talaga yung pag-request niya ng 125 million as confidential funds na wala naman yan na item, no? na appropriation nung last year, nung 2022. Questionable na yon. And then, when we got the notice of disallowance, questionable na rin yon. Kasi, sabing ganon, in the report, sabing ganon, 73 million was disallowed nung COA. And there are, I think, 4 items enumerated ng COA na disallowed.
But is this the same confidential funds that supposedly, or I think there were reports before that the President also approved the grant of those confidential funds?
Yes, the 125 million.
So, does that make this still unusual? Do other offices or departments also get confidential funds?
Well, at kino-question talaga namin yung confidential funds in the national government agencies. Para sa amin, dapat walang confidential funds ang mga national government agencies. So, talagang gusto nga namin ma-abolish yung confidential funds. But in other agencies kasi, hindi namin siya na-question kasi at the start of the budget kasi in 2022, meron na talagang line item for the confidential funds in other government agencies. But still, question pa rin namin yon.
So, Congresswoman Franz, for us Filipinos, what is really the status of confidential funds? Is this legitimate, or should all government agencies not have any confidential funds?
Yes, our stand for confidential fund is to abolish confidential funds sa lahat ng mga government agencies. No, dahil nakita naman natin, mahirap siyang i-audit, tapos ang daming restrictions on the, hindi siya transparent, tapos yung accountability. Gusto kasi natin na at the start of the budget, makikita natin yung line item, saan siya gagamitin. Kasi ang confidential fund, it is just like a lump sum na it's up for the agencies concerned, yung head of the agency, yung may discretion para para gamitin. Kaya talagang sabi natin, this is still a public fund, no? Na dapat na i-scrutinize, na account, and dapat ay transparent. So that's why sabi natin yung confidential funds ay wala dapat yan sa mga government agencies.
And okay, this was a question for the confidential funds that was already granted last year in the last budget, right? But the questions were for this budget hearing in relation to confidential funds that were already approved by both Senate and Congress when they passed the budget last year. Do you think objectively, Congresswoman, this would have been still an issue if Vice President Sara was still with the UNI team or had no conflict with the President? Because you also said that the President approved it, di ba, when it was granted last year.
Oo. Yung 2022, na-approve naman na yun ng President. And even yung confidential funds ng 2023, na-approve yun ng Congress. But for us, makabayan, it has to be audited, it has to be transparent. So, ganun pa rin yun, no? Well, hypothetical yung question, no? Siguro, kung wala sigurong, if they are still united, baka, baka nandiyan pa yung confidential funds. Pero, tama yung naging decision naman ng yung House of Representatives, yung leadership ng House of Representatives, tama din naman yung naging decision nila to remove yung confidential funds ng OVP, DepEd in 2024.
Okay. Well, you also touched on other issues. Let's look at another clip of your exchange with Vice President Sara.
Point of order, Madam Chair, kasi parang siya yung nagpe-preside eh.
Yes, that's why
Kasi inuutusan mo yung secretariat natin sa Committee on Appropriation.
a person convicted of child abuse is still sitting in a seat
Point of
of the
order,
House of
Madam Chair. Ito yung sinasabi
Representatives.
Okay, when I saw that, I was a bit surprised. So you're personally attacked by saying that you are convicted of child abuse. But can you tell us more about this case? Before you answer that question, Congresswoman France will have to take a short break. At the forefront, we'll be right back. Welcome back at the forefront. Congresswoman France, before the break, we were asking you, we saw in that video clip that there was a personal attack against you, saying that you're convicted of child abuse and why are you sitting as a representative in Congress? Can you tell us more about this child abuse case?
First of all, in-expect ko na talaga na sasabihin niya yon. Alam na namin yun. Well, so the case is on appeal in the Court of Appeals. So it is about the violation of other forms of child abuse. In-endanger daw namin yung mga bata doon sa, naglakad sila papunta doon sa road. So, but the fact is, nagkaroon talaga ng harassment. Kasi yung lugar na yon ay militarized, isasarado yung kanilang eskwelahan. In fact, in that area, sarado na yung isang school. Tapos yung last na school na pinuntahan ng mga bata, gusto ring isara that day. We were there because of the National Solidarity Mission. Kasama ko si Castro at saka yung ilang mga other organizations for National Solidarity Mission. So before that night, in the afternoon, we visited the local government, the Department of Education in that area, at saka yung DSWD, para sabihin yung bakit kami nandoon. No? At nakausap naman namin yung DepEd, no? Yung superintendent ng DepEd that time. So, while we are already in the office na, nung sa Tagum City, yung mga teachers tumatawag, nagpaparescue. Kasi nga, sinarado na yung school, pinadlock na, literally, pinadlock na yung school at sabing ganon ay may mga sasampulan daw kapag hindi umalis ang mga teachers at saka yung mga students. Before that, there were already killings ng mga teachers and students. Kaya natakot yung mga teachers. So naglakad, they decided na umalis sa school Tapos tumawag sila para sunduin sila sa road. So yun ang nangyari.
Where was this?
It is
What
in
city?
Tagum. In Talaingod, Municipality of Davao del Norte.
And you were undertaking that, I suppose, a rescue because humingi ng tulong yung mga
Yes,
public school
oo.
teachers as a member of a party list or as already a member of the...
Yes, that was 2018, my first term as a member of the House of Representatives. So, congressista na ako noon that time. So, tingin ko naman I have the authority, no, at tingin ko yung authority ko ay enough para tumulong doon sa ating mga teachers and students. So, wala naman akong nakita doon na hindi maganda. So, yun ang nangyari doon.
After the conviction, were you given any imprisonment as a penalty?
No, because the RTC, after the conviction by the RTC, we were given 15 days to appeal the decision to the Court of Appeals. So we appealed before the 15 days expired. So nag-appeal kami sa CDO.
Okay, so the case is still undergoing appeal.
Yeah.
Let's look at another video clip during the congressional hearing.
Why are we discussing the budget of 2023 and 2024? Honorable friends, Castro.
So kung ayaw niya sagutin, Madam Chair, so let me go through na lang with my question.
Okay. So it seems like you had many questions, including on the confidential funds, that were not answered. How did you feel when a lot of the questions that you prepared for were not being addressed? At some point, were you frustrated?
Well, of course, nadismaya ako, no? Kasi the mere fact na nandoon siya, nag-isip talaga ako na sasagot siya, no? Pero parang may script na siya at ready na siya sa 2 line na sasabihin niya. So, syempre, frustrated kasi para naman sa taong bayan yun, ano? Para marinig ng taong bayan kung ano yung isasagot niya doon sa naging findings ng COA, yung notice of disallowance. So, ang mga series of questions ko lang is related to 125 million. So, yun lang yung pinipare ko for 5 minutes lang kasi. So, since ayaw niyang sagutin yung aking mga tanong, sabi ko na lang, I just run through my questions na lang para marinig ng taong bayan, ano ba yung sasabihin ko. So, basically, I dealt with the notice of disallowance lang. Ano yung mga 4 items that were disallowed?
Eventually. Let's look at another video from the hearing.
Kailangan niyang maipaliwanag. So, hindi pwede yung ganyan na, yung tactics na ganyan, na parang, parang sorry for the pusit, na kapag nasusukol na ang pusit, ay nagaano ng maitim na tinta. So, ayaw natin ng ganun, Madam Chair, kasi yung atin namang pinag-uusapan dito ay budget.
So basically, you coined a new term like Squid Games. Okay, so when all of your questions were unanswered, have you thought of any other means to address the issues that you were raising?
Well, nakita ko na yung pattern ng kanyang pag-answer. Kaya tingin ko hindi naman na talaga ako sasagutin. Kaya ang naging decision ko na lang sa interpellation is to run down na lang yung aking mga questions. And of course, nakita niyo naman siguro parang medyo nadismaya ako. Kaya hindi ko tuloy na iwasan, may compare siya sa pusit. So, ayun. So natawa rin ako sa sarili ko noon. Bigla ako kasing naisip yung pusit. Dahil kasi ganun yung characteristic ng pusit kapag mahuhuli na siya, masusukol na siya. Parang defense mechanism niya yung magbubuga siya ng tinta. Just like what she did, di ba? Sinabihan niya ako nung about my case. Ganon.
Well, let's look at the other people that also had exchanges with Vice President Sara. Let's watch this clip.
Perhaps my ears are not very clear, so I would like to find out if she answered yes, Madam Chair.
And I will leave it to the House of Representatives
I
to
do not
decide on
want
the
her to explain, Madam
proposal
Chair.
as
Madam
presented.
Chair, she has been answering the same answers since we started this query and this hearing. What I just want to ask, Madam Chair, is very simple. A simple answer of yes or no. Does the Vice President believes that this House has all the right to scrutinize the budget of any agency? I'm not just referring to the agency of the Vice President. I am referring to every agency of government, Madam Chair. That can only be simply answered by yes or no. I do not need to hear the paulit-ulit na kasagutan niya. Kanina pa, gusto ko lang pumarinig. Hindi po ako nagagalit. Oo, hindi po katulad niya, parang inis na siya. Oo, gusto ko lang pong malaman. Oo, humbly speaking, naniniwala ba siya, Madam Chair, na itong House na ito, na binoto ng tao, ay merong karapatan ayon sa konstitusyon na scrutinize natin ang budget ng any ahensya ng gobyerno, including Congress, Madam Chair.
Madam Vice President.
Madam Chair,
What are your thoughts on Congressman Abante's, I don't want to call it a tirade, but basically what he said in terms of the inability to get answers?
Yes, parang si Congressman Abante medyo nadidismaya na rin siya, no? Kasi paulit-ulit lang yung sagot ni Vice President. Kaya tuloy pumunta siya sa basic question na kung si Vice President ay naniniwala na may karapatan yung members ng House to scrutinize her budget o yung budget ng opisina niya. So, yun yung basic na tanong no? At yun naman yung basic na mandate ng mga House of Representatives no, during the budget season is to scrutinize the budget of each agencies. Ang sagot niya naman yata, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, oo. So, she did
Sinabi
answer
naman
that
yes,
question. Oo.
pero the same pa rin yung sinagot niya na pinapaubaya niya sa Kongreso yung budget niya.
Congresswoman France, just based on the rules of the House, is it customary to keep questioning a government official if they've already deferred to Congress to pass the budget or not? So it seems like in this case, the Vice President was also saying that she leaves it up to Congress and therefore she's also forgoing the ability to answer questions or be heard. So is this the first time that someone is, waiving that right to be heard and forgoing the question and answer? So I'm saying that perhaps the Vice President also has a point that wherein if she's already waived or forgone that opportunity and has deferred to Congress, then the questions should have ended right there.
Yeah. Ito yung first time, attorney, no, na narinig namin yung ganon, na entire budget ay pinapaubaya niya na doon sa Congress or sa House of Representatives. So, yung experience namin, halimbawa, sa Ombudsman, for example, tinanong ko rin kasi about the confidential funds. So, ang sinasabi niya, bahala na daw kami. Pero part lang yon ng budget niya. Yung mga ibang budget niya naman, part ng itemized budget niya naman, pinapaliwanag kung saan gagamitin, yung ganito. So, this is the first time na the entire budget, sinasabi ng Vice President, na bahala na kami. So, this is not, this is not proper. Kasi you have to justify your budget. Unang-una, tignan natin how do you utilize your budget in the few years back. No? Sa NEP kasi, sa National Expenditure Program, nandun yung 2022, 2023, 24, 25. At least for the 2 years ago, no? Since 2022, may hanging question tayo doon sa confidential funds. Siyempre, tinanong natin yon. So yun nga yung first time na parang pinapaubaya niya. Kasi ang usual talaga, you have to justify your budget. So paano mo siya mayu-utilize? Paano mo siya gagamitin? So ano ba yung mga projects, programs na you are intending to to spend the next year, yung ganon.
There was also an exchange with a representative of Kabataan Partylist. Let's watch this clip.
Madam Chair, point of order lang ulit, Madam Chair. Kasi kailangan lang nating ma-establish, I would assume hindi naman po pinanganak kahapon ng ating resource person. Practice po natin sa
Madam
House
Chair, that is a polite remark.
na para po tayo ay makapagtalakay ng budget na pinopropose para sa susunod na fiscal year. Chine-check natin paano din gumagastos yung mga ahensya even in the current year and in the past year. Also, Madam Chair, Section 162, Rulings as Precedents, rulings on questions raised by members shall form part of the parliamentary practice of the House. At practice po natin since time immemorial na hindi lang po ang proposed budget yung tinatalakay. Kasi yung performance ay dapat bahagi din ng discussion.
Okay, so that was part of what you were saying earlier, that when you tackle the budget, you also look at the performance for the past 2 years, and you were referring to the National Expenditures Program, which also contains the preceding years.
Yes.
So that you can ask how it was used, and I suppose the absorption capacity. So if, for example, in this case you have the Vice President or anyone who refuses to answer, what would be the recourse of Congress?
Well, that's why we defer, no? We defer the budget briefing of the Office of the Vice President kasi wala naman siyang sinagot. So we will see sa September 10, so what will happen again. Kung yun pa rin ang mangyayari, since we have timeline for the approval process ng budget hearing, so we will decide from there kung ayaw pa rin talaga niyang i-justify yung kanyang budget.
Do you expect the demeanor of the Vice President to change at the next hearing come September 10?
Well, sa nakita kong attitude niya during the budget hearing, very combative, talagang parang binibilittle niya yung House of Representatives. Parang tingin ko baka hindi na dumating siya or magpadala na lang siya ng kanyang mga USEC.
Well, we have another clip here that also shows another exchange in Congress.
Ayaw tayo sagutin, Madam Chair. Hindi ko maintindihan kung bakit tayo ayaw sagutin. Napakasimple po ng mga tanong natin. It is about dates. It is about confirming yung mga dates, Madam Chair. So ayaw tayo sagutin at sa harap ng publiko. Ang publiko po ay may karapatang malaman ito. Kaya po tayo nagka-question kaugnay dito, Madam Chair. This is about transparency and accountability. And it doesn't exempt the office of the Vice President. No, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Okay, so I think all the points are consistent among people in Congress that spoke up or had exchanges with the Vice President. It was really asking questions that remain to be unanswered. And you mentioned earlier that perhaps next time she might send an undersecretary. Is that allowed? If you're defending your budget, can you send an undersecretary or a deputy to defend your budget?
Well, usually during the budget briefing, we require the head of the agency to answer the questions. So yun, kailangan present siya doon. Pwede naman niyang, kung nahihirapan sa details nung pagsagot doon sa question, pwede namang i-refer yun doon sa mga USEC or yung mga ASEC. So usually, ewan ko lang kung ano yung magiging desisyon ng Committee on Appropriation, kung magiging firm sila doon sa tradisyon namin na dapat ay head of the agency yung sumasagot at nagde-defend ng budget niya.
We have another VTR here with Representative Luistro. Let's watch this.
This is the right of the people to information on matters of public concern. There is no argument ang pera ng gobyerno ay pera ng taong bayan. Unless the citizens have proper information, we cannot fulfill the constitutional mandate that public office is a public trust. I submit, Madam Chair.
Madam Vice President, do you care to comment?
Yes, Madam Chair, nasabi kanina, ang gist lang na nakuha ko na nasabi kanina ni Representative
Luis Tro.
yes, is that wala siyang time na isa-isahin per letter yung letter namin sa Commission on Audit on why the requested documents should not be released to Congress. Pero nakahanda na yung mga sagot niya sa lahat ng arguments namin sa national security, sa due process, and sa separation of powers.
So, again, I think in this case, do you also have a sense, candidly, that perhaps for the Vice President, I know that in other hearings you also mentioned that a lot of the questions are politicized. Do you think from her end, having been a seasoned politician as well, she knows that usually congressional hearings can be used for politicking, was she trying to fend that off?
Well, during the hearing no, ng Office of the Vice President, so tingin ko naman yung ating mga congressmen were very professional. They stick to the to the budget. So tingin ko naman wala namang pamumulitika doon. Pero syempre pag politics kasi it's choice, no? Yung mga kongresista natin doon, so syempre very inquisitive sila doon sa ano talaga yung nangyari doon sa budget. So wala naman siguro, as far as we are concerned, wala naman sigurong politika kasi we stick to the topic, we stick to the budget. Wala namang ibang pinag-usapan doon na tungkol sa politika.
Well, for all the exchanges that happened, among the congressmen and women that had exchanges with the Vice President, who do you think was the most effective?
Sino ba?
Wala naman.
Parang wala kang nasagot, no?
Okay.
Parang effective in a sense na meron bang napala ang taong bayan doon sa sagot niya. So tingin ko wala namang napala ang taong bayan doon sa sagot niya.
So walang nakakuha na sagot. Okay.
Ang malinaw lang sa nangyari sa hearing ng Office of the Vice President, walang napala ang ating taong bayan dahil matagal naman na nilang talagang tinatanong itong 125 million na confidential funds. At syempre dahil gusto rin nilang malaman siguro yung how the Vice President could justify yung susunod na budget niya, wala rin napala yung taong bayan. Parang may sinabi pa yata siya doon sa isang kongresista na I have naman the PowerPoint presentation, yung di ba, yung kanyang presentation, yung video presentation. Parang nire-refer na lang niya kami doon. So talagang talagang arrogant. But anyway, so wala talaga tayong napala doon sa pero ang nakita lang natin doon, nakita natin yung attitude, behavior, takot sa accountability, hindi transparent doon sa kanyang budget or sa kanyang paggastos doon sa budget. So nakita na natin yon. So nakita natin yung karakter na baka sanay na siya, 'di ba? Na hindi siya kino-question before, na 'di ba? Naging LGU naman siya, official. Baka sanay siya at at medyo natakot siya doon sa national na question siya ng mga senador at saka ng mga kongresista.
Well, Congresswoman Franz, generally in Congress, if you refuse to answer a question or unable to answer a question, Congress has in the past used their power to cite in contempt. Why was there no move from any members of the committee to to hold the Vice President in contempt? But before you answer that question, we'll have to take a short break. At the forefront, we'll be right back. Welcome back at the forefront. Congresswoman France, before the break, we were asking you, in congressional hearings, there's usually a risk of being cited in contempt if you refuse to answer questions. Why was there no move among any of the committee members to cite the Vice President for contempt?
Well, the nature of the hearing is just briefing. Hindi naman siya congressional hearing. Kaya we cannot use the contempt, no, yung kasi hearing lang yun eh. It is just a briefing, budget briefing, wherein the government agencies just present their budget. So, hindi pwede namin gamitin
So the
yung
rules are
content.
different in
Yes,
this
the rules are
case.
different.
Okay. Congresswoman France, do you think, objectively, the Vice President would have received this type of treatment? There were several people from Congress that she had exchanges with. But do you think she would have received this type of treatment in terms of the amount of questioning and the exchanges if she were still an ally of President Bongbong Marcos? Objectively, I'm just asking you. Yeah.
As for my experience, no, kapag alay ka ng administration, so usually the leadership of the House of Representatives accorded with respect, no? So hindi na nagdumadaan sa question and answer kapag alay ka. Pero since meron kasing controversy, meron kasing hanging na questions, no? Parang talagang minabuti na rin, no, nung committee, nung appropriation, na magkaroon din ng tanong. Kasi kami sa Makabayan, we will insist on questioning the Vice President about the confidential funds. Pero in the past naman, in the experience, in the past, no, hindi naman, siyempre ito si Leni Robredo in the past as Vice President, hindi rin naman siya alay ni dating Presidente Duterte. So nagdaan din siya sa question and answer. No? Ang maganda lang kay Vice President Leni, talagang open siya doon sa kanyang at nasagot niya lahat yung mga question namin.
Did the Vice President before, Vice President Leni Robredo, also have any confidential funds?
No.
Okay.
No.
What about the Office of the President?
The Office of the President has confidential fund. Nagsimula, lumaki kay President Duterte. More than 4 billion.
So,
and until now, nandoon pa rin yun.
So under the Office of the President of President Bongbong Marcos, they still have confidential funds right now. Will you also be questioning the confidential funds of the Office of the President?
Yes, we will question.
Okay. But are you gonna say that, okay, you said you think this should be abolished, but will you be consistent? I think Makabayan has made it clear that your bloc will always question this, but can you say the same thing for the other congressmen and women?
No, I cannot speak for themselves, no? Tignan natin, because meron kaming House resolution regarding the inquiry in aid of legislation about these confidential funds. So, tingnan natin kung it was submitted pa last year. So, tingnan natin kung mahihear yun, kasi malilinaw talaga dito, or we can amend siguro yung joint circular para mas mapahigpit pa, no, yung mga guidelines doon sa joint resolution. So, but of course, our stand is to abolish all lump sum, all unexplained or non-itemized budget, kasi nagiging lump sum yun, discretion yun ng agency or yung head of agency. Kaya talagang gusto na talaga natin na transparent tayo, makita talaga natin saan saan gagastusin yung mga pondo.
But that is your bloc's position, right, for Makabayan?
Oo. Consistent kami dyan mula noong 2000.
Objectively, do you think that confidential funds can be used as a political tool, also to punish those that are not allied with the administration? Because we all know that Congress tends to be also controlled by the current administration.
Well, siguro hindi naman punishment. Siguro it's right decision talaga na tanggalin yung mga confidential funds. Kasi because of its nature na mahirap mabosisi or mahirap ma-audit, tapos hindi siya transparent talaga at pinapakita sa taong bayan yung paggastos.
Congresswoman France, let's go to you on a personal level. So you're a public school teacher. What types of advocacies does your party list have right now?
Yes, I was a teacher for 25 years in high school mathematics. So what are our advocacy? So of course, yung upliftment of the economic life, economic conditions of teachers, yung government employees, tsaka siyempre yung for quality education, di ba? Isa rin sa advocacy namin yung good governance. So as teacher, you should be you should be honest. Dapat walang corrupt, no? Dapat transparent and accountable ka doon sa mga sa katungkulan mo. So yon yung good governance. And of course, we also have yung aming as a teacher, ang aming mga estudyante ay yung kanilang mga magulang ay belong to the marginalized sector, yung farmers, workers, government employees din. So we do also this link or we unite with the advocacy rin ng mga marginalized sector. So yun ang yun ang advocacy ng ACT Teachers Party List.
So when at the time when Vice President Sara Duterte was appointed as DepEd Secretary in 2022, what was your impression of that appointment? Were you happy with that? Did you think she would be a good DepEd Secretary?
Well, yung sinabi ko doon, sana may iba pa, no? Sana more qualified at educator, may malasakit talaga sa mga teacher, yung dapat na maging DepEd Secretary. At saka dapat hindi siya dahil sa political accommodation, no, yung DepEd Secretary. So, kami doon ng rejection sa Vice President as DepEd Secretary.
What about the appointment of Secretary Sonny Angara? Do you think he'll be a good DepEd Secretary?
Well, para sa amin, mas okay si Secretary Angara. Kasi nung teacher pa ako, nakaka-consult namin siya in different issues of teachers. Like yung tungkol sa salary. And in fact, meron siyang proposed bill to increase the salaries of teachers, to upgrade the salaries of teachers. So kami ay talagang regularly nakikipag-consult kay Secretary Angara na when he was a senator. Kaya mas okay naman sa amin kasi at saka very open naman siya sa mga consultation unlike yung dati.
Well, you also said that ideally it should be an educator that should be a Department of Education Secretary. If you had that ability to choose a DepEd Secretary, who would be an ideal candidate in your opinion?
Well, hindi kami nag-name names. Sinasabi lang namin yung mga criteria na pwedeng dapat ganito. So, yun lang yun. So, siguro kung akong pagpipiliin para to choose a department secretary, dapat hindi siya appointed. As much as possible. Kasi politically, nagkakaroon ng politika kapag appointed. It should be a recommendation from the academe or from the students, from the parents. So, kung may mga recommendation, so doon na lang mamimili siguro yung presidente. So, hindi yung
Parang more of like a career official.
Yes, oo. Para hindi siya ma-politicize yung position.
Do you think that 6 years is too short to have meaningful educational reforms? For a DepEd secretary, yeah.
Well, depende talaga, no? Kung magpa-prioritize ang department secretary noong talagang mga pangangailangan, depending on the problems, needs of the stakeholders, siguro okay na sa akin yung 6 years. Kung talagang focus lang yung secretary doon sa problema talaga ng mga teachers, ng mga students.
How is your party list able to advance the what you call the plight or also the needs of public school teachers?
Well, we conduct regular consultations sa mga teachers. Kaya even yung mga pinafile naming bill and resolutions, that comes from our teachers, yung recommendations nila. So, kaya kami regular na nakikipag-usap sa mga unions, sa different organizations. So, since 2010, we have passed more than 10 more than 10 na mga laws na primary author kami. Like yung, for example, yung free tuition doon sa mga secondary, free tuition for tertiary education. So, principal author kami. Recently, yung doubling of the teaching supplies allowance of the teachers. Tapos yung expanded maternity leave, etc. So, yun yung mga in-author talaga namin na very useful dun sa aming mga constituents.
So you also advance the interest of private school teachers. So it's for all teachers. Like listening to what bills you've filed, it seems like it covers
yes,
all.
Oo. Kasi maternity leave, expanding maternity leave from 60 to 105 days, both for public and private school yon kasi sa lahat yon. Exemption of tax, no? Meron din kaming napas na exemption from tax, wag lamang lalagpas ng 92,000 yung total benefits mo, exempted na yun sa tax. Yung Election Service Reform Act, yung voluntary na on the part of the teacher, yung to serve in the election, both for public and private yun. Kasi nagsaserve din yung mga private school sa election kapag wala talagang pwedeng mga public school. Ano pa ba? Yung syempre itong tertiary education, yung mga private school teacher, may mga anak na nag-aaral sa mga SUC. So, nakinabang din sila doon. So, marami naman, pati mga non-teaching personnel.
What can we expect from ACT Teachers Party List in the coming years in terms of you're going to be running again the party list will be running again in 2025. So should the party list win again, what can we expect in terms of reforms?
Yes, so we will run again on the next election. We will pursue still our main legislative measure, which is a living wage for our teachers. Our proposal is at least 50,000 per month, 50,000 pesos per month yung entry-level pay ng ating mga teachers. Kasi when we compare the salary of our Filipino teachers with the Southeast Asian neighboring countries, talagang nahuhuli na talaga ang teacher. Like for example, sa Thailand, ang entry level nila doon ay 60,000 pesos. Kaya talagang gusto natin talagang ma-level up yung sweldo ng ating mga teachers. And to prevent then yung exodus ng mga teachers natin in going abroad, no? Marami tayong mga teachers na naingganyong pumunta sa iba't ibang mga bansa, even in Southeast Asian countries. They go there, no, for a greener pasture. And then number 2, so syempre yung mga working conditions ng mga teachers natin, less class size, less hours of work, other benefits pa.
Well, thank you. It looks like there's a lot to expect from your advocacies in terms of education. Final question, and very briefly, what would be your advice to Vice President Sara if she attends the hearing in September 10?
Well, ang advice ko kay Vice President Sara Duterte, kung darating siya, sana maging open-minded siya at titignan niya yung ginagawa namin ay trabaho lang. Walang personal dito, walang politika. Kung talagang maipapaliwanag niya yung budget niya, yung confidential funds, sabihin na niya yon para naman malaman ng taong bayan ano ba talaga yung behind this. Kasi para mas maintindihan siya ng tao.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Franz Castro, for all your valuable insights today. Having a heated verbal exchange with the Vice President during a congressional budget hearing gave rise to tensions. But ACT Teachers Party List Representative Franz Castro considers it an opportunity to discuss public trust and accountability. After all, people come and go from government posts, but accountability should be inherent in all public offices. Be timely informed, be insightful of the news. Always stay at the forefront. Join us again on Monday for meaningful conversations that would help you form an objective personal opinion. This is Attorney Karen Jimeno. Have a good weekend ahead.